Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Davis and today I'm going to be teaching you how to maximize your duochrome pigments and how to get the maximum impact out of them using various different eyeshadow bases and mixing mediums so you can have a full impact eyeshadow like the one I've created today. These are the two colours that I'm going to be using today, and you can see that one of them has a kind of purplish, bluish, turquoise sort of colour, and the other one has got this kind of emerald, grass green kind of shift. And sometimes I find that when you're testing eyeshadows on the back of your hand or on your fingertips or on the palm of your hand, as you see online everywhere, lots of swatching, it then looks completely different when you put it on your eye and you think, why is that? Well, it's because the skin is a completely different texture, it's a completely different dimension and shape, and it also behaves completely differently than the back of the hand or the inside of the palm. And there's the added challenge of the fact that you're opening and closing your eyes, so the skin is always bending in on itself and touching the top of your eyelid. So you have to find other ways to make sure the eyeshadow behaves in the way that you want to create a high impact, long lasting effect. So I'm going to be taking you through those tips, tricks and techniques to do that. Now, the look I created today, I used a ton of brushes for this. I'm just warning you, okay? Now, I believe you can never have too many eyeshadow brushes. I think they're a bit like tops. You know, we all have, well, not all of us, but I have got loads of black tops, probably because I'm a makeup artist. I have tons of black clothes anyway. But anyways, you can never have too many brushes, so you're going to need quite a lot of brushes for this look. So for my eyeshadow base, now, in order to make these colours pop, I'm going to be using a black under base on my eyelid. And then we're going to be creating a transition into the other shades on top. Now, in order for me to use my black base, I need to make sure that the black base transitions also into the rest of the kind of skin tone base, if that makes sense. So I'm going to be using, for the black base, I'm going to be using MAC Black Track, okay? And this is a chromaline, MAC Backtrack. But first and foremost, I'm going to prime the eye. So I'm going to start by priming my eye, and I'm going to be using something a little bit different to what you usually see online. Usually see people priming with lots of different like bases and all that, but I'm actually going to be using a 24-hour eyeshadow to prime my eye, and I'm going to be using the Danessa Myricks Colour Fix, and this is in colour Nude. This was gifted to me. Now, the reason why I'm using this colour, popping it onto my little palette there, the reason why I'm using this colour is because it's going to fix, it isn't going to budge, and I need to have that base in which I can blend the black base into as well. So I'm just going to buff in that 24-hour eyeshadow using a Spectrum Collections B06 fluffy synthetic brush, and I'm using a synthetic brush because it is a wet formula, and it's just going to spread it on really just sort of thin layer. And I'm just going to go over the entire eyelid, going up onto the brow bone there. Now, the reason why I'm using a 24-hour eyeshadow base instead of your regular eyeshadow base like Anastasia Beverly Hills or P. Louise, there is a reason for this, and that is because I'm going to be laying down a black base on my eyelid, and I don't want the black base to then mix with the pale base and then go a kind of bluish grey, which often happens when you have those two meet at a transition point. Right, so I've just popped that and I've just buffed that in, and my eyelid is looking quite pale. Over the top of that, I'm going to be going with the MAC Chromaline Backtrack, and I'm going to be taking a flat Spectrum Collections rounded synthetic brush in A16 into that pot, and I'm dipping straight into the pot because it's my personal pot, but obviously if you're a makeup artist or you're doing it on a client and a model, you would decant some first. And I'm going to pop that straight onto my eyelid, and you can see how that base is not mixing in with the base underneath. Those eyeshadow bases that you see from like P. Louise or Anastasia Beverly Hills, I find they work brilliantly if you're working with powder eyeshadows. And for this, I need to have a cream base for my loose chrome eyeshadows to stick. So I'm just placing that literally on the eyelid up until the crease here. And I'm just sort of roughly plotting that down, like so. Then I'm going to buff out the black, the Chromaline black onto the top. Buff and pat, just so I can deposit a little bit more of that product just above that crease line, like so. So next up, I'm going to take the Carla Cosmetics Loose Multi-Chrome Eyeshadow in Lullaby, and I'm going to be taking an ultra soft natural hair bristle brush by Hakuhodo in S146. It's quite a sort of elongated dome shape, which is perfect for what I'm going to be using it for. I'm just going to dip that into the loose chrome. Now, I strongly recommend for this type of makeup, I would do the eyes first because this is going to be a messy job. I, to be honest, don't know how a lot of people do their eye makeups, do their foundations first and then their eye makeups, unless it's like a sort of quite simple eye makeup or not quite messy, simply because I'm quite a messy worker. Right, so I'm going to pop that straight on to the eyelid, and I'm going to be setting that product using that first layer, and you can just see the shift. You can see it's already making a mess and falling everywhere. The reason why I had my makeup done first is I actually filmed a different video for this. So ordinarily I would have a bare face at this point. So I'm just going to then take that, excuse the sirens, and you can just see that shift. You can see it going from turquoise sort of purple. It's great, and you can just see it on the end of my eye on the other side. So we're going to be using 2 of these multi-chromes to get a really mega impact, and as you can see, that's quite the mess. So I'm just going to be bringing that up to that just above the crease line there, blending and blending, and I'm going to pat the rest of that in. Don't worry about the mess, we're going to clean that up later. I'm just going to remove that little bit down here because this bit's annoying me. I don't know why that is annoying me more than everything else, but it just was. The rest can remain. So we're going to move on to the transition colours. So we're moving from the eyelid up into the brow bone. And for the transition colours, I'm going to be using a combination of 2 palettes. I'm going to be using the Cosette Beauty shadows, and I'm going to be using these 2 colours here. Now, I love Cosette Beauty because they're super, super pigmented, and it's kind of like a pro range, and they're great. And I'm going to be using... Sorry guys, but I'm going to be using the original MAC 221 brushes. When I heard that these were becoming discontinued, I made sure I went out and I bought like 6 or 7 of them, and I still have them, and they're one of my favorites. So I'm going to be using these to start my transition, and I'm going to be dipping into that deep peacock green color, and I'm going to be patting onto that black color and just bringing it round, and then dipping into the other one. and the green and the sort of grass green colour and blending that in. So my transition shades I'm going to be using are from the Natasha Denona Chromium palette, and I'm going to be using these shades here, which are perfection for this look. So I'm going to be using the Hakuhodo J6090 brush, and this brush is super interesting. It's very, very similar to the MAC 221, which was discontinued, except for it's angled. See how similar they are? It's angled and it's got these like really, really wispy bits at the top, and it's perfect for little feathering on little transition shades, and I love it. It's just so delicate, and you can pat on the colour. So I'm patting on that colour Iron just onto the border of that previous Cosette shade, and it allows you to kind of softly feather out the colour as well, like so. And I'm going to be bringing that shade right into the inner corners. Right, so next up I'm going to be dipping some of that incredible, almost scarab green duochrome colour onto the inner corner of the eyelid, and as you can see, it's got an incredible shine there. And how I did that is I used a mixing medium, and the only way to get that kind of very, very high shine is to encapsulate that powder. And the mixing medium I'm going to be using is this gel-like mixing medium by a company called Carla Cosmetics. As you can see, it's kind of very well loved, and it almost looks like it's just like a clear gel. I'm not sure, it's kind of odorless. There's like a very, very, very faint, I'm not sure what it is, but it's kind of amazing. It's like a very, very, very fine gel, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that and I'm going to mix in this colour, and it's just absolutely amazing. It looks, once you mix it in, it actually looks like beetle wings. It's incredible. So you want to get kind of like a paste, and using a sort of flat Hakuhodo, again another Hakuhodo brush, it doesn't have a number on it, I'm going to go on the inside of my eye and I'm just going to lay down that colour like so. And I'm going to bring that chrome around about 3/4 of the way over onto the eyelid. And I'm just going to kind of feather it out slightly. Like so. I'm going to feather out that edge. It doesn't have like a hard line. If you wanted a hard line, you could just stop there. But I'm just going to feather it out. Then to blend that hard edge, I'm going to take a dry brush. I'm just going to dip it into the same product without the mixing medium. And I'm just going to lightly dab and blend on that borderline the rest of that duochrome, so that it doesn't, so that you don't have like a hard edge of where one joins the other. There's kind of that seamless blend, and it goes from wet into shimmer and then into the next duochrome colour. So you have that sort of transition of texture across the eyelid. So we've gone from duochrome, loose duochrome with the mixing media on the inside, to the loose duochrome to the first duochrome, if that makes sense. And as you can see, it goes from sort of that green into that purple blue kind of shift there. So you kind of have, you have actually a multi-chrome effect on the eyelid. So I'm now going to clean up the mess underneath my eye, finally. I'm just going to use a wipe for that. Right guys, so that concludes the final look. As you can see, there's lots of different shifts happening there, different textures. We've got a sort of very, very highly intense wet look on the inner corner of the eyes, transitioning out into a sort of shimmer chrome, and then into that kind of blown out matte kind of chrome effect on the outside perimeters of the eyes. And I really enjoyed sharing with you my tips and tricks and techniques for maximizing your duochrome pigments using pro products and mixing mediums. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe and the bell notification so you can be notified of future videos that come up, and I can't wait to see you on my channel again in future. Thank you for joining me here, and see you soon.